All right, ladies and gentlemen, folks at Nearsoft. As every week, we are finally live, and we experienced a few minutes of delay, but I want to thank Isaac Lopez here, our sensei, for helping us, and especially helping Linda to fix it, because we're having some kind of, just a minor glitch, but it's taken care of. So we're live, and as usual, we're broadcasting live. I already said it, from the beautiful Mexico City offices of Nearsoft. And today we have a very special guest who's actually causing a lot of great expectation. There's a lot of people, I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there that are looking forward to this chat, and I'm talking about Linda Rising. She's a speaker, author, and consultant in computer software, and she lives in Nashville, Tennessee. And she has authored 4 books and numerous articles, and is an internationally known presenter on topics related to patterns, retrospectives, influence strategies, agile development, and the change process. But I'll let Linda do the introductions better than I can, of course. And also, of course, we also have one more time Isaac Lopez, our sensei. He's co-hosting today. Thank you, Isaac, for being here with us today. And the same for you. Gustavo Serrano, aka Fru. We affectionately call him Fru here at the office. And Gustavo, thank you so much for being here with us today. And without further ado, I'd like to simply pass on the mic to Linda. So, Linda, I'd like to simply start, as you can see right here in the lower third that we have. It's the Agile Mindset. That's the chosen topic and the chosen name for today's talk. So Linda, let's start by that. Let's start by the topic itself and its name, the Agile Mindset. Why did you choose this particular topic, and why? Can you tell us a little bit more about what the Agile Mindset is and what you mean by it, please? And welcome, Linda.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. I wish I could really be in Mexico City. I've never visited Mexico City, although I've been to Mexico many times, and so I have that on my places to go. So perhaps, who knows, I might wind up there at some point. It's a pleasure.
We'll look forward to hosting you.
Okay, all right. Well, let's do that. Let's absolutely let's make it happen. I think one of the things that I always say when I start is that I'm lucky enough to still be active and working at my age, and yet I know that I'm closer to the end than the beginning. And so as a result of that, I am starting to give things away. So one of the things I give away is presentations. So I have talked about the Agile Mindset many times, and I have a lot of presentations about the Agile Mindset. In fact, if your listeners Google on Linda Rising Agile Mindset, you will get to hear many of those presentations. And if you think that this topic is important and if it's relevant, then I want you to send me some email, and that's one of the links that I sent to Carlos. So that's on the webpage is my email address, and I will be happy to send you any of those presentations so you can turn around and give the presentation yourself. There isn't anything on any of those slides that's copyrighted, and after we have a chance to talk about this today, you will be able to then talk to your teammates, you'll be able to talk to your families, maybe talk to your children, you'll be able to talk to your colleagues about the Agile Mindset, because you'll have those presentations, and I'm also happy to answer any questions that you might have even after I'm no longer part of this presentation. So the Agile Mindset is something that I discovered by accident, and I do that a lot. I have the time and the energy to investigate anything that I think is interesting. And I discovered Carol Dweck's work, that's D-W-E-C-K, and again, I have links on the webpage. So I discovered her work several years ago. I gave a presentation at the large Agile conference in the US, And ever since, I've been following the research, and I think it has great application both to Agile development and also the problem that we have in the United States right now with software development. That is, there aren't enough women. I'm also
Exactly.
concerned about, I don't know what it's like in Mexico. Is that a problem in Mexico as well? Not enough
Yeah,
women?
yeah, that's an
Okay,
issue here too.
okay.
Yeah, we need
So
more women in development, software development. So definitely.
yes, I agree. I agree. So here are the questions. I want everybody out there to just think for a moment. How do you regard smart people or intelligent people? What comes to mind when you think of a smart person? Do you believe that that smart person is born that way? That that person has a certain amount of intelligence when they're born? And that they either have intelligence or not. We know we can measure intelligence with an IQ test, but is it fixed? You have it or you don't have it? That's one point of view about intelligence. The other point of view is, yes, of course, we're all limited with our talents and abilities when we're born, but we believe that we can all get better. That is, if I'm determined and I work hard, I know that I can be better tomorrow than I am today. And that's not only true for intelligence, but it's also true for any talent or any ability. So those two mindsets are called fixed. That is, you believe you either have it or you don't. Or I call the other one agile. That's the belief that, of course, there are limitations, but if you are determined and if you work hard, you can get better. So fixed versus agile. Now, the research by Carol Dweck shows that we tend to hold both of those at various times, yes, but that we lean in one direction or another. That is, we have a tendency to be fixed or we have a tendency to be agile. And that tendency influences everything. It influences how we see ourselves, how we regard our abilities, what we can do and what we can't do. It determines the kinds of goals we set for ourselves. It determines whether or not we embrace challenge. It affects how we feel about failure, whether we embrace it or whether we avoid it. And it depends on how we think about effort, whether it's good or not. So if we have the fixed mindset, our goal in life becomes to look good. If we believe that we have what we have and there's nothing we can do about it, well, then we spend an enormous amount of time looking good so that other people will then believe that we have it. We have that talent or that ability or that intelligence. We want people to think we're smart.
Okay.
If we have the fixed mindset, then our goal is always to look good. We never want to fall down or fail or at anything, because then people will be able to judge us. They'll be able to see, oh, well, you don't have it. We then look at any kind of failure as a sign almost from God that I don't have that. I don't have that ability. I can't do that. Whereas if we have the agile mindset, we know that it's struggle, it's determination, it's hard work that gets us where we want to go. And so now we embrace that challenge and we're not afraid to fail. And we know that it's not about looking good, it's about learning, it's about growing, it's about improving. So those two mindsets determine everything. And when I first saw the research, I thought there was a huge connection with Agile software development. Because in Agile software development, we are all about learning. We are all about trying our best, but if we fail, that's okay. In fact, there's a mantra in Agile that says fail early. because that's how you learn. That's how you get better. It's not about being perfect. It's about improving. But the real connection for me in all of this research came about when I saw the Carol Dweck's experiments with bright little girls. In her research with bright little girls, what she shows is that those bright little girls are born with great communication skills, and they do really well in primary school. They do well at reading. But when the hard stuff comes along as they leave elementary school and they start going into junior high, then we lose them. They struggle and they give up. The numbers are clear, at least in the US, that that's when little girls begin to leave science and math, is when they go from primary school or elementary school into junior high. And in Carol Dweck's research, she's found that bright little girls have, of all the cohorts, that is, of all the groups that she has examined, they have the most fixed mindset on the planet. So when they see hard stuff, they run away. When they see hard stuff and they begin to struggle, they think, well, this is not for me. And they don't embrace challenge and they don't embrace failure. They want to be perfect and they always want to look good. And as a result of that, they turn away from science and math and we lose them. Well, you know, this is interesting research, but well, what about bright little boys? I mean, what's the difference? And the difference is bright little boys are not perfect. They are always getting into trouble. You know what we say to bright little boys is, why can't you sit still? Why can't you pay attention? Why don't you do this homework over again? It's really a mess. Why can't you be more like your sister? So bright little boys struggle from the very beginning. So when the hard stuff comes along in junior high, well, it's just the way it is. They've always struggled. They've always met challenges. And in Carol Dweck's research, the results are clear. Bright little boys are the most agile on the planet, the most resilient. They're not afraid to fail. They're not afraid of challenge. So when they see hard stuff in math and science, they embrace it. So it's not only individuals that can have a mindset, it's also teams, it's also families, it's companies. So my classic example of the fixed mindset for a company is Enron. Enron had the policy called rank and yank. They always set out to hire the best. And once they hired them, then they set about continually evaluating, rating them one against the other. And what they encouraged by that was the fixed mindset in all their employees. And they all wanted to look good, even if that meant going out of their way to make others look bad. And that, of course, is ultimately what brought Enron down. Sabotage, trying to look good. My best example of an agile company is Southwest Airlines. They have in their hiring policy attitude. They don't look for the best necessarily. They look for growth. They want people who want to learn. They want people who want to get better. They want people who want to try things, who aren't afraid to failure. Now, that doesn't mean that they let everybody fly the airplane, but they're open to experiment and they're open to let people grow. Now, I just learned recently, because I gave a version of this talk in Romania and also in Hungary and in Eastern Europe, the countries have a mindset. So I wonder, what about Mexico? Does the country have a mindset? Is Mexico agile? Is Mexico fixed?
That's a good question. we should figure it out. Yeah.
I know that in the U.S., of course, we're very agile. We have a history of saying we can do everything, and of course we're wrong about that, but nonetheless it doesn't keep us from trying and recovering from failure and trying again. So we definitely have an attitude there of learning and not being afraid of failure, of saying we can do it. We can do it. So I don't know what you say in Mexico. Do you encourage yourself? Do you say we can do it? Or do you say no, we don't have it?
I think we have a 50-50, probably a 60-40, with the leaning towards we don't have it. So it's more or less leading to the don't have it, because there are a lot of friends that are afraid to try new things, or afraid to make a failure or make fun of themselves. So 50-50, 40 something.
So that's a significant thing, because that can hold you back. You want to move in agile direction, and so what we have to do is look at Carol Dweck's research to say, well, how do you move people in an agile direction? And the answer to that, whether you're talking about people in your own country or people in your own family, is you talk about the work, you talk about the strategy, you talk about the effort. So I'm going to use your children as an example. Isak, do you have children?
Yeah, I do. I have a daughter, 9 years old. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So do you ever say to that wonderful, bright little girl, do you ever say, oh, you are so smart?
I at first, when I was I was starting to look into that, I was thinking about that and saying, hey, you are smart now. Since I am a big follower of your work, so I try to price effort. So I try to make her be proud of her failures, or or learn for those. So I try to encourage her to try several things, and
yes,
yeah, I try my best on that. Probably I'm not the best to do it, but I try.
yes, and none of us are perfect. So that's exactly the right answer, is that what we tell those bright little girls. Or we started this interview by labeling you, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we said, oh, Isak, he's the man. He's the one who knows how to do this.
That's not true.
Sensei.
He's the guy.
Other people say that.
And we do that all the time. We label each other and we think, well, that's a good thing, isn't it? No, it isn't. Because what we're doing with those labels, even when they're good labels, is we're pushing you into a big box labeled fixed. And we're encouraging you now to believe that you do have it. It's
Got to write
obvious.
that down, definitely.
It's obvious. It's obvious to everybody that Isak has it. He's the man. He's the one who can figure it out. And what we're doing to this poor guy, because he knows he's not perfect, he knows what he doesn't know, is that now he doesn't really trust us. And he begins to question all the feedback, because he knows there are things he doesn't know and there are things that he can't do. But he's afraid now to show that, because then it will look like evidence that he doesn't have it. So instead, what we want to do to our children, what we want to do to each other, is we want to put them in the big box labeled Agile. And we want to say, Isak, you really worked hard, or you understand how to make Chrome work with this video hangout, and could you teach me that? Could I learn how to do that? You know the strategies. So we want to stop labeling people, and we want to talk about how they did something, to our children how hard they work to do well on a test, or how long they practiced on an instrument, or how much effort they put into improving a sport. We want to praise the effort, and we want to praise the work, and that's what we want to reward. And we got to get rid of those labels. You know, as human beings, we are hardwired to label each other. We already do that, and there is absolutely nothing we can do about it. So we got to fight it. And we got to stop labeling each other. Who has it and who doesn't? Who's the smart guy and who's the good communicator? We do that to our own children. We label our own children. Oh, yes, she's the computer geek and he's the artist. We got them labeled before they even go to school, and what we're doing by that is putting them in a big box. And that doesn't help them grow. We want all our children and our colleagues to be the best they possibly can be. And that's really, to my mind, that's the heart of Agile development. So I went out to the web and I started scraping all the websites looking for some sort of clue about whether Agile development agile. And I found fail early, fail often. Failure is an option. Without failure, how can we learn? Kent Beck, who's the creator of XP, he said, perfect. No, it's perfect. Perfect is a verb. Nobody's perfect, but we can all get better. So I think the research has a lot of connection to Agile, but I've been surprised ever since I've been talking about it that what most people want to know is, how does this apply to my children? And especially all those bright little girls. Because we know that software would be better, teams would be better, the world would be better if we had those bright little girls out there. Maybe that's our hope for world peace. I don't know.
Yeah. That's half of the
Let's have
population.
those bright little girls. Yeah, we need more of them out there. So if you send me some email, I tried to put together lots and lots of suggestions, concrete suggestions that people can use when they talk to their children, when they talk to each other. Well, and you know, we all talk to ourselves. We've all got a little voice in our heads that says, I can do it, or I can't. I'm smart, or I'm not. And I don't know where that voice came from. Maybe it was a parent, maybe it was a teacher. And we listen to that little voice, and sometimes it has a lot of power over how we feel and what we do. We need to start tuning that little voice so it tells us things that are going to help us be more agile. So I like to give myself as an example. Most of the time when people hear me speak or have a chance to meet me, they say, well, goodness, this woman is incredibly old. What is she still doing out there? And how in the world did she ever get a PhD in computer science? Because they probably didn't even have computer science when she was going to school. And you'd be right. Nobody was doing computer anything when I started school. Nobody was studying computer science. I went back a lot later in life. My goal was to get back and finish that PhD by 50. Finish by 50. And I just made it. I gave my PhD defense in computer science 1 month before my 50th birthday. And that was 24 years ago.
Okay, I had 10.
So don't let anybody ever tell you that you are too old or too young or too Mexican or too anything to do whatever it is that you want to do, because the world needs all of us. Yes, of course, we need those bright little girls, but we're all agile. So I don't want you to hang back just because you think, oh, I had a bad birthday, so there's no way I could get out there and have that little startup or go back and get that degree or do the things that I want to do. No, it's not going to work out. I might as well just give up. No, don't. We need you. We need all of you.
Yes.
Linda, Isaac, and Gustavo, if I may, I'd like to just to step in and interrupt for a couple of seconds, just to remind the audience that they can send us their questions. Just if you're watching us on our website, just click on the send us your questions or interact with us that you're going to see right there on the player, or simply you can simply tweet, send us a tweet. It's at DojoLIVE. Simple as that. So, and Linda, thanks. Just briefly, your words, I find them very encouraging, even though that I'm not a developer or an engineer. But your words are truly encouraging, especially as I approach my 50th birthday in a couple of months. So, so there's a lot for me. And I now sense that there's still a lot for me to do. So, I got the drive at least. Okay. Isaac and Gustavo, I'd like to switch the mic over to you, Gustavo, because I know that you have formulated your own series of questions. So please, by all means, the mic's all yours in case you have any questions ready. Gustavo, mic's all yours.
Hi, everybody. Linda, well, what can I say? I have read your book recently, Fearless Change, and it was amazing. Okay, I know this is talk about Agile Mindset, but I'm sure that Agile is very close, it's very related to change in the corporate world, in organizations, and especially in cultures. But for you, do you think there's a relation between Agile and all the amazing things you wrote in Fearless Change book?
Absolutely. I think there's a deep connection there, because Fearless Change says pretty clearly that organizational change doesn't happen overnight, that it's a very difficult thing, and that organizations have to live with that. Unfortunately, a lot of Agile change effort is done by edict. Some high-level vice president will come in and say, we're all going to be Agile by the end of 2016, so make it happen. And what we know is that an organization is a living thing. It is alive in every sense of the word. And the only way it changes is by taking little small steps and learning from those steps. Take a little step, see how it works, learn from that, and on the basis of what you learn, you take the next small step. That is Agile. So Agile development is not just about developing software. It's about learning. You know, all of us, even me, I'm the oldest one in the room here, we all learn to walk in exactly the same way. Our parents didn't say to us, okay, you're 2 years old now, so you should be walking, so get on it. No, they supported us while we took a little step and we fell down. And we got up again and we said, well, that didn't work. Well, let's try something else. Step by step, falling down, over and over again. Can you imagine if we hadn't been agile, we would never have learned to walk, we would never have learned to talk. We had it right in the beginning. That's how we learn to do everything. That's how organizations move forward. Take a little step, fall down. That didn't work. What can we learn from that? And let's build the next small step on that. So fearless change, agile software development, agile mindset. They're all talking about exactly the same thing, which is what babies knew, and then we forgot.
Cool.
Yes.
Excellent. Isaac, I know you have also your set of questions, so please, by all means, the mic's all yours.
Sure. I have a ton. So, Linda, regarding learning and failure, on your experience, on your own experience on live, what is the biggest learn of or your favorite failure?
I think it's what I keep learning over and over again. When I'm doing something, I think, well, this is who I am, and this is what I do, and so therefore I must continue doing that. And that is wrong. That is my biggest failure, because we are never anything. We are always a work in progress. We are like plants. You know, we can grow if the sun is good and we get the right fertilizer and enough water, and what we're going to be tomorrow depends upon all of those things. We are never fixed. We are never anything. We are always a work in progress. And I keep forgetting that. That's my biggest failure, even now.
Interesting.
I'd like to read if I may, Isaac, I'd like to read a question from the audience. We just received a tweet from, I hope I read it, please. I hope I'm reading it correctly. Shifra Pride Raphael, and from Switchfly. And her question is the following. Hold on one second, let me just, bear with me a little bit. Sometimes Twitter can be a little tricky for me.
Technology is wonderful when it works.
Yeah, especially when you're kind of new to the Macintosh environment.
That's good. That means you're learning.
Oh yeah. I'm trying, Linda. I'm trying, especially. Yeah. Okay, here it is. Where is it? I lost it. I had it right here in front of me.
No worries. I have just a quick
go
question.
Go ahead a second. I'll read it.
Just a quick question, just to yeah. So I for every people I admire, I want to ask them, how do you deal with distractions? How do you learn to handle the noise versus the meaningful signal? So when we are on the process of learning, always we should focus on the signal, on what is the essence of things, and eliminate the noise. How do you deal with this distraction? How do you maintain your focus?
You don't have a clue. You don't know. You never know. And all you can ever do is make your best guess. And that's why all the steps that you take. In Agile, we talk about experiments, and that's exactly what we mean. Little tiny experiments. That's why all those experiments, all those little steps should be so tiny that if you've made a mistake and you've been looking at the noise instead of the signal, and then you move forward and you suffered a massive failure because of it, then it's not going to be very harmful because it was such a little step. And you have to always be open to the possibility that you might be headed in the wrong direction. In fact, a lot of organizational change is like that. It moves forward, and then we see, oh, that's not working. We should back up. We better learn from that, and we better try it again. Because we'll never get it right. And that's not only true for organizational change, but that's true for how you lead your life. So you think, well, I have lived my life a certain way up to this point, and I can see that there were some things that I should have done differently. If I made too many big steps and too many commitments, well, then it's really hard to undo that. So you never know. It's a crapshoot. The universe is playing dice with us. And so the only hope for us is to make those little tiny experiments so small that if we did make a mistake, then we haven't totally destroyed everything, and that we should learn as much as we can from that. You could always learn, even if you did make a mistake and got the signal and noise confused.
Nice. Thank you. I have two more questions, but okay, let's go to the to Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, I just found the Twitter, and what I did, I had accidentally closed the window. But anyway, here it is. From Schiffer, right, Raphael. She's asking, Linda, can you talk about being agile in an environment where customers have agreed in advance to a fixed amount of work?
You can be agile in any environment. And in fact, most customers who think they know what they want, they haven't got a clue. And all you can ever do is work with what they're telling you at the moment, but you want to constantly be teaching. You're going to teach your customers a better way. In fact, all of us who are in the agile development world should take on that role of mentor or teacher for everybody who's around us, with the idea that we know a better way of moving forward. It's not about specifying requirements up front that we're going to deliver some product 2 years down the road. We already know that doesn't work. But it's really hard for some customers to give that up. So what we have to do is realize that they are just people trying to do the best job they can, and somebody's mother and somebody's father and somebody's grandfather, and that we need to teach them by living ourselves in this agile way, showing them that we can learn together. In fact, the best teams I have worked with said at the end of the delivery cycle, we grew that together. And that's the goal, to actually teach your customers how to grow things together, step by step.
There you have it. Okay, thank you so much, Linda. And so, Isaac, let's go back to you. I know you still have a whole bunch of things to talk about and ask Linda, so please, by all means, go ahead.
Three more, because I know that we are about to wrap this conversation. Wrap up this conversation. So I have three more. One a little long, and the other very short. So I am a big fan also of Nassim Nicholas Taleb. He wrote the Black Swan and Anti-Fragile Lady. So he talks about trying several things, and he always talks about do not try to predict the future because it's always random. Yeah, but I will ask you about trying to all the things that you have seen and in the past 74 years of your life. How do you see this bright girl that is just 9 years old, and when she reaches your age, how do you see her world, or what do you hope for a world where a bright girl, how would it be different than it is now? How do you imagine that future? Even technology influencing could be process or something, society.
So the answer to that one, that's easy, is I have no clue.
That's the easiest one.
Okay.
I have no clue.
My favorite.
and in fact, if you find somebody who can predict what the future is going to be like for somebody who's going to be my age in another 70 years or whatever, then I would not trust them, because nobody knows. And in fact, the people who are involved in anything are the ones who are the worst at predicting what's going to happen. The people who are the experts in every area have always historically turned out to be the people who were the worst at predicting what was going to happen to that field. So since I'm in software, and I have been in software for a long time, I'm the worst person to know what's going to happen in the future. I will point to another book. In fact, I will send you a link to this.
Yes, please.
There is a lot of new research because I am interested in estimation. The researcher's name is Philip Tetlock, and he has a brand new book. It's just out. It's called Super Forecasters, and he has research that shows a certain attitude leads to better estimation. And the essence of that attitude is openness and learning and all the things that we talk about in Agile. So if I get up here and say, I know for sure what's going to happen, then you should not trust me. But if I say, well, here's what I know right now, but tomorrow I'm hoping to learn something and I might adjust and I might change my mind, well, then I have more credibility. And we don't do that. The way we live our lives now is we pay attention to people get on television. I'm sure you know what's going on in the United States right now. We have this horrible political campaigning. It's really embarrassing for me, but people get up and say things with such certainty about the way the world is going to be, and they have no idea. And why do people pay attention to them? Because they seem so sure. They seem so positive, and we're looking for that. So you're not happy with my answer. You want me to tell you something. And instead, I'm going to be honest with you and say, I don't know. And not only that, nobody does. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
I will send you a link to that. So if people want to look at that research in estimation, it's finally the first evidence that we have for a better way of estimating, and we're all interested in that.
Thank you. I will take a look. I already know to take a note about the name of the book, Super Forecasters. Thank you. I have one more question. I have two questions, but I have time for one. So I would like to ask you about if you had you have the ability to put a message on a billboard anywhere in the world, and where would it be, and what would it say?
It would have to do with humility, because we all think that we know more than we do, or that we have learned more than we have, and what the world needs is more openness, more learning, more hesitation. Our politicians are definitely not humble, and they are not open to learning. They're not open to experimenting. Even Obama, he did the best he could. I'm not saying he didn't have a good heart, but he didn't come in with the idea of experimenting. He came in with the idea of, I have an agenda and here's what I want to do. And I think we need to have more agility in the world, more falling down and getting up and learning from that experience. So on that billboard, it would be humble. Don't be afraid to fail. It's okay. That's how you'll learn.
Exactly.
Thank you.
It reminded me, Linda, just a side note here, what you just said reminded me of a line that I remember from a very, very old black and white movie called Lost Horizons.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, and when the guy, you know, bottom line is the guy is finally asked the High Lama what the secret for his longevity was, and he only responded only two words. And he said, be kind.
Yeah.
That's all he said.
Yeah.
And then the implications are humongous. You know, if you translate it into your everyday life, just be kind with everything, everyone. Anyway, thank you, Linda.
Amen.
I'm sorry?
I said amen.
Amen. Absolutely. Okay, Linda. Let me go. Let me just. We only have time for one question, and I'd like to switch over the mic to Gustavo. Gustavo, the mic's all yours, and please, by all means. Thank you.
Hi. Um, you were just talking about not knowing or not trying to predict the future. That's a lesson most of us learn in the hard way. Let me show you who told uh, who helped me to learn that lesson. I will try to put an image. Um, mm, can you see that picture?
No, we see. Oh.
That picture is about one of your presentations,
Yes.
and it is very
Right, little
similar
boys.
to my home, but with the difference that instead of two kids, there are four. But for the rest, it is the same. They are my teachers.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I will stop sharing the screen.
Yes.
And well, uh, many times we are talking about a company with a waterfall culture trying to adopt an agile methodology or framework, but I am thinking now in something like the opposite. A company with an agile culture, but that for any reason the top management is trying to introduce many controls, many fixes things from top to bottom. And the question is there anything from the base to keep the mindset or the agile culture alive?
So, high-level management in any organization is usually just made up of human beings. And the biggest characteristic that you find across organizations that drives change or the lack of it is fear. And so if an organization has tried to go agile, and now you find that top management is pushing to say, no, we don't want this. We want to back up. Let's go back to the way things were. We want to go back to waterfall or RUP or whatever it was that they were doing. Usually that's an indication that they're afraid. They don't know what's going to happen. They feel like they had control. They could predict better, which is, of course, not true, but don't ever confuse reality with the way people think, because they're totally different things. So if you are the agile coach in that situation, is that what we're talking about? Are you the agile coach? Are you the change agent? Are you the person who's trying to bring agile into the organization? Gustavo, is that you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So here's what you need to do. You need to sit down one-on-one with those high-level decision makers, and you do it on their own time. And you say to them, what are your questions? What are your concerns? What are your problems? And let them tell you what they're afraid of. And the idea is that you want to address those fears. What is it that they're afraid of? Now, you have to do that one-on-one because high-level decision makers will never admit to not knowing something or to being afraid of something in groups. So that's why you have to meet with them one-on-one. It's a pattern from Fearless Change. It's called Whisper in the General's Ear.
Yes.
One-on-one. And your goal is to gain the trust of that decision maker so that if he's afraid of something, and these are usually he's, if he's afraid of something, he doesn't know what to do, maybe he could ask you for help and he could depend on you, and you would become what's called a trusted advisor. Because what we know about high-level decision makers is often they are isolated, they have nobody they can trust, and they have nowhere to go if they have any questions about anything. So they're stuck. They live in their offices and they have to make decisions with incomplete information, with no trusted advisors, so they need help and they know it. If you could offer that one-on-one, get together, short meeting, answer their questions, and then the second part of this, Gustavo, is when you leave their office, after talking to them, if they have been honest with you, you should never tell anybody what they said. That's totally confidential. Never tell anybody. Not your wife, not your children, not your colleagues, nobody. That's a secret. And they'll trust you then if they know you're not running around telling everybody what they were afraid of or the questions that they had. And you're going to have to do that one-on-one for every single decision maker who has influence in your company. And you're going to have to do it over and over and over so that you stay in touch and you continue to address their fears, because this is a kind of decision that's driven by fear. They want to go back to the world they knew, where they felt comfortable, they could plan it out, they thought they knew what the requirements were, they thought they could develop a timeline, and so they're nervous and afraid, and it's going to be your job to address that. Can you do it?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. That was great, Linda, and I gotta hand it to you, definitely. Okay, here I need to step in because we're approaching the final minutes, so we need to wrap up today's broadcast. Unfortunately, I know that at least in Gustavo's and Isaac's heads, they're kind of exploding with ideas and things that they would like to ask you, but we're going to save a little bit for maybe for a future occasion, which we'll be delighted to have you again sometime in the future. And Linda, if I may, there's one thing. I'm not going to ask you, just to as a wrap up, I'm not going to ask you if the type of questions like if you were a fruit, what kind of fruit would you be or something, right? You know, that's a cliche. But what I would like to ask you, and this is tying into the words, the two words that we mentioned about the movie and such. If you could leave us with two words, which words would those be? Like the ones that we mentioned, like be kind or something. Which two words would you leave us with that would you feel that might make a difference in our lives?
So what I always sign when people ask me to autograph one of the books is "Be fearless."
Oh, there you have it.
Great.
Perfect. Doesn't get any more perfect than that. And from this talk, Linda, what I personally retain, and it's I noticed the difference between the adjective and the verb. You know, perfect and perfect.
Yes.
So I think that's definitely, at least in my mindset, that's going to make a difference. Like I said, in my role, it is going to make a difference. So. And well, Linda, Isaac, and Gustavo, we need to wrap up, and I really appreciate your having been with us today. Linda, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate your having agreed to be here with us today to share everything you have to share to the world. and we'll look forward to having you again sometime soon. And finally, Linda, and I think I mentioned this, I asked you in our conversation yesterday about your mailing address, because we're going to be sending you one of these and one of these here. Okay, so these are just a couple of tokens of appreciation. They're kind of nice, you know, and you'll get them soon in right in your inbox. We'll FedEx them over to you. So it's just a way. It's a small token of appreciation, Linda, for having agreed to be here with us today. I think your participation is absolutely priceless, and I'm sure that my teammates here will agree.
Yeah, thank you, Linda, for all your work and all the contribution to humanity. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
We'll be in touch, Linda. Thank you so much, and thank you, everyone. You have a wonderful day, all of you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.